Welcome back, everyone. Today I have 6 Super Bowl appetizers for you. So I'm gonna run you through the ingredients, and some of these appetizers are your go-to football game food, the ones that you expect, like pigs in a blanket, which if I didn't make those for Super Bowl, I would never hear the end from my kids. So that is one of the things that we're making, but there's a couple of different appetizers that you don't normally see. So they're simple, they're easy, and they don't require a lot of ingredients. So let's jump in, and hopefully this will give you some inspiration for this coming Sunday. So I just spread out all my ingredients. I went to the grocery store today, and I will run you through what we're making. And you are gonna hear that crazy baby because he's running around in his walker. You wanna say hi? Are you gonna wave? No? You say hi. You're so silly. All right, so first appetizer. You guys have probably heard of pull-apart bread or monkey bread, where you put butter and cinnamon sugar with biscuits. So for this one, this is a savory spin. We're gonna do pizza pull-apart bread. So you need some sort of shredded blend cheese, whatever you have on hand, whatever you like, some marinara sauce, biscuits. I like to use the flaky kind, but you can use whatever kind you prefer, and then just some pepperoni. So that's really easy. And then we're gonna put all of this in a bundt pan. The next recipe is meatball sliders, and this could not be easier. So I got fully cooked meatballs, again, marinara sauce. We're gonna need a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, some slider rolls. I got golden potato sliders, but if you can find the King's Hawaiian, those are our favorite. My grocery store just didn't have them. But any slider rolls will do. A little garlic powder, a little Italian seasoning, some either, I have Pecorino Romano grated cheese, but you can use Parmesan, and then some provolone, just sliced cheese. So that's for the sliders. And then over here, this is a fun one, and this is something I thought my kids will really love. So you can buy pre-made waffles, or you can just make waffles in a waffle maker. Chase is really excited about this one. And then I just took the easy route, and I got these honey battered chicken breast tenders. So I'm gonna throw these in the air fryer, and we're gonna do chicken and waffles for a little appetizer. So how fun is that? And then this is one of our go-tos. So I always do a big veggie platter with ranch dip. And I always tell my kids they can have the appetizers, but they also have to have some of the veggies. So this is a good way. And I got carrot chips. My kids like carrots. We got tomatoes, cucumber, bell peppers, and broccoli. You can use whatever vegetables you want though. This is another go-to. So these are just the little smoked sausages, the little smokies, and then crescent rolls. And I'm gonna do them in the shape of a football. So I'm sure you have seen these probably at every Super Bowl or football party, but these are my kids' favorite. And then last but not least, we are doing loaded tater tots. And we're gonna do them on skewers to make them a little bit more fun. So I got these skewers from Bed Bath & Beyond, actually last summer I think, but I've seen them in a few different places. So we're gonna skewer up some tater tots, and then we're gonna cook some bacon and put some shredded cheese, and then finish it by sprinkling some cilantro, or you could put green onion, whatever you want. So let's get started with our football appetizers. To get started, I preheated my oven to 350, and that will work for all of these recipes. To start on the meatball sliders, I poured about half a bag of my fully cooked Italian-style meatballs into a saucepan, and then I just added about 3/4 of a jar of marinara sauce. You just want enough for them to warm up in, and then you want a little bit left over for dipping. In a 9x13 casserole dish, you just want to take your slider rolls and spread the bottoms out, and you actually don't even have to grease it. I just put these in and it worked out perfectly fine. They didn't stick at all. So we're just gonna reserve the tops of those rolls off to the side, and then we're gonna take the remainder of our marinara sauce and spread that over the bottom part of the rolls. You don't want a ton of sauce because you don't want them to get soggy, just enough to add a little bit of flavor and help everything kind of stick together. Then you want to take your sliced provolone cheese and just put a single layer on top of the sauce. And just for reference, I purchased a half a pound of provolone, and that was the perfect amount for this 9x13 casserole dish. Once your meatballs have warmed through, you just want to spread them in a single layer. And I have little kids eating these, so I chose to go through and cut them in half to make them easier to eat, and there wouldn't be meatballs rolling everywhere with red sauce. So that step is definitely not necessary, but it does make these a little bit easier to eat. So there's an idea, but again, not necessary. Then it's time for another layer of provolone cheese. And don't worry about the cheese covering everything perfectly. It's gonna melt and all go together, so just spread it out as best you can. Then you wanna pop on the tops of your rolls, and then we're gonna add a little extra flavoring. So you wanna add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil and just brush that on. And you just need a little bit. This is just to crisp them up and to get the cheese and the seasonings to stick. So brush a light coating of that on. Then we're gonna add a very, very light sprinkle of garlic powder, a little Italian seasoning, and then last, we're gonna sprinkle on our grated cheese. So like I said in the beginning, you can use grated Romano, you can use grated Parmesan, you could even put shredded cheese on top. Whatever you have on hand and whatever your family likes. Then this entire casserole dish goes in the oven at 350 for 20 to 25 minutes, just until it's warmed through. Next up, we're going to be making our pizza pull-apart bread. So you want to have a bundt pan, you want to grease it really well, and then this could not be easier. You want to take your biscuits, I usually do 2 at a time, and break them into smaller pieces. So you're just gonna toss them in the bottom of the bundt pan, and you don't necessarily have to use a bundt pan. You can use a cake pan, you could use a casserole dish. The idea is that you just want a circle, but whatever shape works, it all tastes the same. Then you wanna take a little bit of marinara sauce and kind of drizzle that over the biscuits. Then you wanna take a few slices of pepperoni, and then the last part of the layering process is to take some shredded cheese. And then we're just gonna repeat this 3 times, and this goes in the oven. Like I said, this is really easy. This is actually a really fun job that your kids could help with if they like to be in the kitchen with you. So it's just layering. You don't wanna push it down. And as you go, you can kind of tuck the pepperoni and the cheese in between the biscuits, and it all kind of melds together. This is also a recipe that you could make ahead. You could either do this the morning of or even the night before and just cover it really tightly with saran wrap and pop it in your fridge. I would just let it come to room temperature before you put it in the oven, but this is one of the easiest appetizers. And if you guys haven't tried monkey bread or pull-apart bread with cinnamon sugar, you are missing out. That is one of my childhood memories with my grandmother. For the last layer, you just want to do the last 2 biscuits, and then sauce, pepperoni, cheese, and then it's ready for the oven. And this baked at 350 degrees for right around 25 to 30 minutes. You're looking for the edges of the biscuits to be golden brown, but you don't want it to be overbaked. And once you take it out, it'll stay warm for quite a while. Once it comes out and it's cooled, you just want to flip it onto a plate, and you could serve it this way, which I didn't think was very pretty, so I flipped it back over. And as you can see all of the cheese and the pepperoni, and I just sprinkled a little bit of cilantro for some garnish. I used a little ramekin, and I had reserved the sauce that we had cooked the meatballs in, and I just tucked that right in the center, and the heat from the bread helps keep the sauce warm, so it works out perfectly. Next up, we are making our loaded tater tot skewers. So first things first, we have to crisp up some bacon, and if you guys have watched any of my videos where I've talked about my air fryer, you know how much I love it. And if you have not made bacon in an air fryer, something you have to try. It is so good. So I put half a pound of bacon in my air fryer. It's okay if it overlaps a little bit. And then we're gonna cook this at 360 degrees for 6 to 7 minutes. Then you flip them and then cook them for another 6 to 7 minutes, and you will have perfectly crisp bacon. So I'm using a cookie tray, and I am using my silicone mat because I use these all the time. But there's a little trick to skewering tater tots. You cannot skewer them while they are cold or frozen, so you do need to pop these in the oven, or you could even pop these in your air fryer if you have one. So I just poured the amount that I thought I needed on the silicone mat, shook it so that it's even, and I popped this in the oven for about 15 minutes. While those were warming up, I chopped up my bacon because that was going to go on top of the tater tots. So I just gave that a rough chop. Then the tater tots were warmed through, so it was time to skewer. So you can put however many you want on your skewers, kind of depends on the size of them. I decided to do 4 on each because I thought that was a good serving amount, and it worked out perfect. So I just went through, skewered them. You do have to be careful because the tater tots are pretty fragile, and you just want to lay them flat on your sheet pan. We're going to add a thin layer of cheese first, so the bacon will actually stick to the tater tots. Then you just want to add your chopped up and cooled bacon. And then just a little bit more cheese to hold it all together. And then I popped this in the oven at 350 for about 25 minutes. Next up, we're putting together chicken and waffles, and I'm just using a boxed pancake waffle mix. So I followed the instructions on the back. So whatever waffle mix you have on hand or you are using, it may not look the same as mine. So mine called for a cup of the dry mixture, an egg, and then I had milk and oil. So we just gave that a really good mix. And then I like to let my waffle batter sit for a few minutes before I cook. So while my waffle iron was preheating, I just let that sit to the side. And once my waffle iron was preheated, I just went ahead and made a few waffles. So like I said in the beginning when I went through the ingredients, you could make this even easier and buy the frozen waffles that you pop in the toaster. There is no shame in that game. If you want to make this even faster, that would be the way to go. I just knew I had waffle mix on hand and decided to do it this way. Then I popped the honey battered chicken tenders in the air fryer, and this is the same air fryer basket that I made the bacon in. I just cooked these at 400 degrees for about 8 to 10 minutes. And now it's time to assemble. So you want your chicken fully cooked, warmed through. You want to take your waffles and cut them into equal size pieces. Your pieces may look different than mine depending upon your waffle size, but I cut each waffle into 4. And then I just had some toothpicks to kind of secure these together. I will tell you, my kids loved all of these appetizers, but these were one of their favorites. They thought these were amazing. Another great variation would be to drizzle a little bit of honey right before serving. The only reason I didn't is because I didn't want these to get soggy, but we did serve a little bit of syrup for the kids on the side. But these were great on their own, to be honest. The sweet and the salty, this was a great appetizer and everyone loved it. Next up, one of the most iconic football foods I think there is out there, pigs in a blanket. So I think everyone pretty much knows how to make these, but you take your crescent roll dough and you cut little strips. I usually do 3 to 4 per crescent roll triangle, and you just want to roll them up. So to add a little fun spin to these, instead of baking them normally just separately on a cookie tray, I cooked them close together in the shape of a football. And then I added a little bit of the extra crescent roll dough to add some little laces. This was just for fun. It did not last more than 2 minutes once this went out to the table, but my kids loved it. And then last, we have the iconic ranch sour cream dip. This is something that we have for most football games, and I actually like to make this ahead of time. So this is something that I typically make the night before, and I let the flavors kind of meld. And I like to buy my sour cream in containers that have a lid, so I don't have to dirty an extra bowl, and that way when it's time to serve, I can just pop this in my serving platter. And while football food is not the healthiest, I really like to serve a big veggie platter, so I put lots of different variations of vegetables. While I cut them up, I like to have a little side bowl for any like trash scraps or anything that is going in my compost. And I decided to do red bell peppers, a green bell pepper. They had these beautiful grape tomatoes at the grocery store, broccoli, and cucumber, and then those carrot chips that I showed you. And it's funny, my kids say they don't want any vegetables, but they end up constantly snacking on these, and it makes me feel a little bit better about them eating all these little appetizers. It's not something we do a lot, but they did eat their fair share of veggies. So let me know in the comments below if you guys have football parties. What is your iconic go-to football food? I would say our two must-haves are pigs in a blanket and a veggie platter with ranch dip. Every single game that we have people over or we do a spread of this kind, those are two things that you will always find, and my kids have come to expect it. So I would love to hear what your favorites are. Also, I would love to hear who you're rooting for this coming Sunday, the 49ers or the Kansas City Chiefs. We are big Kansas City Chiefs fans in this house. My husband has been a Chiefs fan for as long as I've known him, so he is pretty pumped about Sunday. So let me know, 49ers or Chiefs? And last, I just chopped up some cilantro to sprinkle on the tater tots and a few other of the appetizers. And then the last thing that I had to tuck in this veggie platter were those carrot chips. And I almost forgot because I didn't have to chop them. So this is our Super Bowl appetizer spread, our chicken and waffles, which were super delicious, our pizza pull-apart bread, which my kids absolutely loved, our meatball sliders, which were a great crowd favorite, and of course our pigs in a blanket, which I served with little toothpicks on the side for picking them up. These tater tot skewers were also a huge hit, and of course our veggie platter. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hopefully gave you some inspiration for this coming Sunday, and if you are not subscribed, I would love for you to hit that red subscribe button. We will see you in the next one.